Hey friends, if you've been on the fitness side of TikTok, I'm sure you've heard of AntiDietPilot before. She makes anti-diet and fitness content and has amassed quite a decent following doing so. And today we're taking a look into the delusions of said creator. Before we start though, I have to mention that I do agree with some of the things she says, particularly about crash diets being harmful, but most of her good content gets overshadowed by the overbearing amounts of BS pro-fat rhetoric. Let's take a look.
Every time I bring up fat phobia, everyone always thinks that means that they hate fat people. And that's part of it, but really that's not what I'm talking about. Notice how this gives me a little bump here. Looking at myself in this mirror, telling myself that this is not flattering is fat phobic. Why? Because looking at yourself in the mirror and thinking, wow, this region looks bigger, therefore it's not flattering, it's bad, it's ugly. But you have a bias that being in a larger body is bad. And that bias is literally what internalized fat phobia is. Bye.
Have you ever heard of the word preference and fat phobia? Damn, the definition of this word keeps on getting wider, no pun intended. But okay, let's follow your logic. So if a bodybuilder thinks maybe his legs are too small, is he now thin phobic? Or what about the fat activists who love being fat and don't want to be any smaller? Are they all thin phobic? No, because it's almost as if beauty is subjective and you can't really tell others what they can or can't find ugly.
The body positivity movement kept me fucking fat.
Hello? It concerns me that you think your personal experience with being should be projected onto everyone else. Just because you were and unhealthy doesn't mean everyone else is.
Why is she censoring the word fat here? What? Okay, anyway, the double standard is real. Nobody else can talk about how unhealthy they were when they were fat, but you can go on and on about how unhealthy you were when you were skinnier. Just because you dieted in an unhealthy way doesn't mean everybody else does. Jeez, way to project, am I right?
Yes, the body positivity movement isn't for 200-pound white girls. Bye!
I mean, you definitely look like you're under 200 pounds, so leave your own movement, I guess? Also, what about a 200-pound white girl who happens to be an amputee? Can she no longer partake in the BOPO movement as well because she isn't fat enough? But they're the most acceptive community on the planet, right?
If diets worked, wouldn't they work the first time?
I mean, diets do work, just not long term. You can go on a diet, lose a bunch of weight, and then start eating like usual again and gain it all back. And that's why it's recommended to make little, gradual, permanent changes to your eating and exercise habits, so they become a natural part of your life and weight loss will happen. But this girl doesn't want to talk about that. She gets the terms diet and calorie deficit mixed up quite a lot, and that's where the problem begins. A diet and a calorie deficit aren't the same thing. A diet is mostly short-term. It might involve cutting out certain food groups or restricting your calorie intake by a large margin. But a calorie deficit can just be a slight decrease in your calorie intake without you having to give up all your favorite foods or overly restricting yourself. She also makes it seem like people don't have different goals in life. If a morbidly obese person wants to lose weight and go on a calorie deficit, they are well within their right to do so.
How do you eat healthy without going on a diet? Because I feel like if I'm not conscious about what I'm eating, I feel like shit. But then if I'm conscious about what I'm eating, it turns into a diet. Let me know.
So, you would rather feel like crap than properly nourish your body because you're so afraid of the D word? Healthy eating means incorporating diverse food groups and eating certain foods in moderation. Junk food does make you feel like shit, so if you don't want to eat it, don't eat it. It doesn't make it a diet.
What makes somebody fat phobic at the gym? Let's talk about it. Are you going to the gym so you can get a flat stomach? Or are you going to the gym so you can build a stable core and have better posture? Are you motivated to go to the gym so that you can lose weight? Or are you focused on increasing muscle and bone density? Do you only consider a workout good when you feel sore or tired the next day? Or do you look to feel energized and awake after working out? Are you prioritizing leg day because you want your butt to look super delicious? Or is it because you know strong glutes help protect your knees and your back? Wanting to work out does not make anyone fat phobic, but the motivations why you might go to the gym do.
No, this is just sad. There is nothing wrong with wanting to look a certain way. Obviously, working out for health benefits is a huge priority, but if you want your butt to look super delicious, go for it. It's your life, your body, and your decisions. Wanting a specific appearance that boosts your confidence is not a bad thing, and most definitely isn't fat phobic. She's wearing lash extensions or maybe mascara in this video, and tell me, is it to help her eyelashes catch dust particles more efficiently? No, it's to look better. So how about we drop this dumb argument that wanting to look more attractive is immoral and every action has to benefit the mind and body?
Literally no one said that using alternative ingredients to make food is diet culture. But videos like creating healthy versions of things or hunger crushing combos or suggesting that low fat, high protein, low sugar is the automatic epitome of health is diet culture. Number one, there's little to no research to support most of diet culture's claims. But also number two, we as consumers start to internalize those messages. Over time, we start to assign moral value to food, and that's what creates a disordered relationship with food, which is a fast track to developing a full-blown ED. This is a problem because EDs have, if not the highest, the second highest mortality rate of all mental illnesses. And the number one argument that I hear is like, well, not everyone's going to develop an ED. And that's because a lot of ED symptoms are just masked as being discipline.
Again, people have different goals, and it's funny that you talk about EDs as if they're only focused on restricting your food intake. Binge eating disorder is also an ED, and guess what? Emotional eating is also considered disordered eating. And you don't get to 600 pounds by just overeating now and then. There is almost always a complicated history of trauma within morbidly obese patients that have led to disordered eating patterns. So why exactly are we encouraging this lifestyle over this one when both are disordered and extremely unhealthy?
When you ask people why they're on a diet, they usually will say something like, oh, I'm trying to be healthier. I don't want to be fat. I don't want to die early. And it's just so ironic because you got research like this showing that weight cycling is linked to all of those increased risks for diseases, not the actual fat itself. And you've got even more specific research like this showing that it's linked to specifically things like coronary heart disease, osteoporosis, type 2 diabetes, rheumatoid arthritis. We have thought for the longest time that those diseases are linked to fatness, but unfortunately those claims are based on limited and poor quality evidence. So if you gain weight and you're considering going back on your diet, this is your sign to not do that. Good night!
So she claims that all evidence of obesity being unhealthy is poor quality. Okay, well, thankfully for us, she has listed all of her good quality research articles in a Google Docs document for us to learn from. First thing I notice is a ton of arguments and claims, but not a ton of sources. You can see here we have only one article linked to back up all of these claims, which already seems a bit sussy to me. Secondly, when you scroll to the bottom, she's listed podcasts and books as evidence. I don't think I need to get into why these aren't reliable sources of information when it comes to scientific facts, as they are mostly considered entertainment, but it's fine. What about the articles? Right off the bat, I see no analysis articles. These are all opinion articles. And if you don't know why opinion articles aren't considered to be the most reliable when it comes to science, it's because these articles don't contain any analysis within them. They are merely formed by authors who interpret other analysis articles. In addition, all of her linked sources are quite outdated, and there are many far more recent actual analyses that completely disprove the points within her sources. Let's give her the benefit of the doubt and take a look at one of these articles. Weight Science, Evaluating the Evidence for a Paradigm Shift. And the first point illustrated is people who are overweight or moderately obese live at least as long as normal weight people, and often longer. Alright, let's find this argument in the article itself and see the references provided. Reference provided is an actual analysis titled Excess Deaths Associated with Underweight, Overweight, and Obesity, and it is based off of 3 different surveys. And if we read some of the results in the study, we find that although the prevalence of BMI 35 or greater is low, probably because this study is based on data from 23 years ago, that category accounted for the largest absolute number of estimated excess deaths in 2000, regardless of which survey served as the source of relative risks. Our results show increased mortality associated with underweight and with obesity, particularly with higher levels of obesity relative to the normal weight category. So that means if you have a BMI of 25 to 30 and are simply overweight, you have the same mortality rate as a person with a normal BMI. But they also say we use the current federal definitions of overweight and obesity, which are based only on BMI, not on body composition. So it could be entirely possible that muscular people whose BMI would show them to be overweight skewed some of the outcomes. We will never really know, but honestly, I do agree that having a bit of extra weight and therefore being overweight is completely fine. Because even as this study points out, the problems really start rolling in once you hit the obese mark. We did not examine other health problems caused by obesity. A recent population-based study has found that overweight and obesity have a strong and deleterious impact on important components of health status, including morbidity, disability, and quality of life. And this impact is disproportionately borne by younger adults. Nor did we examine cause-specific mortality. Overweight and obesity may be more strongly associated with cardiovascular mortality than with total mortality. It's quite funny that they didn't reference this part of the article, right? Okay, well this argument kinda held water if you squint your eyes just enough, but let's look at another one. Obesity is associated with longer survival in many diseases: hypertension, cardiovascular disease, chronic kidney disease. Also, obese people who have had heart attacks and other health conditions live longer than thin people with the same health-related episodes. Okay, let's find the reference to this point again, and it's another opinion article, yay! Despite the fact that obesity has shown to be an independent risk factor for cardiovascular disease, many studies have demonstrated that obese patients with established CVD have a better prognosis than do patients with the ideal body weight, the so-called obesity paradox. Okay, so let's actually read a bit further than the first sentence. We previously demonstrated that obese subjects with CHD who were more successful with weight reduction had considerably greater improvements in most CHD risk factors following rehabilitation compared with obese subjects who did not lose weight. Likewise, in a study of over 1,500 patients, intentional weight loss from a 6-month diet produced lower incidence of CHD events over 4 years. These studies support purposeful weight reduction in obese CHD patients, despite the obesity paradox. Finally, we must not lose sight of the fact that obesity might be intimately involved in the pathogenesis of hypertension and CHD. Therefore, without significant weight gain, many of the overweight and obese patients in the INVEST study might not have developed hypertension and/or CHD in the first place. This article is literally 1 page long and you couldn't even take the time to read it through. It literally disproves the very point you are trying so hard to prove. Long story short, these studies are BS. She just cherry-picked some random points that fit her narrative and completely ignored all others that prove her otherwise.
I figured it out. The reason why everyone is so committed to believing that fat is bad, regardless of all the research that is out there, is because committing themselves to that ignorance makes them feel superior to people who are in larger bodies, to people who aren't dieting, people that aren't over-exercising. They feel like they are better. And if they were to accept new research showing that, dieting is actually really bad for you, then they would have to lose that superiority.
Yeah, because you don't act like you're better than anyone. You're not getting on a moral high horse because you think everyone who wants to lose weight is an awful fat phobe. Do yourself a favor and follow your own advice.
So it has come to my attention that people don't understand why content like this is very harmful, not to just people with EDs, everyone. Blaming food as the reason why your body doesn't look the way you want it to look is simply diet culture. Why is this content harmful? Because she didn't need to explicitly say one is good, one is bad. Because due to fat phobia, we think not being toned is bad. So we put the bagel in the category of bad and the spinach wrap as good.
How is she blaming food in any way? She only said that she switched up the food she was eating to get closer to her desired appearance, and that's her choice. She never said that one food was better than the other, just one helps her reach her personal goal and the other doesn't. Stop being dramatic, please.
Serious question.
Is intentionally losing weight diet culture?
The answer is yes, every single time. The biggest example Kiara gave in this video was because she was larger, it was hard for her to find pants in a normal store. So like she lost weight for convenience, right? That's what it seems like on the surface. But we first have to ask ourselves, why can't larger bodies find their sizes in stores?
Yeah, brands could carry more bigger sizes because everyone deserves the right to clothing, but you have to understand that at the end of the day, these are all businesses, and if a majority of people are within the sizes the store carries, then they have no purpose to change the sizing because making larger sizes increases production costs.
It's actually because brands have decided that they are going to make their clothing for one body type, and not for the average size woman in the United States. No. They cater to the ideal thin body. And where did this ideal thin body come from? Diet culture, my friend. So even though for you it might seem like, oh, it's just convenient for me, in the grand scheme of it all, it's contributing to diet culture. Because you're willing to do what diet culture wants you to do, which is lose weight so you can fit their image.
So not everyone wants to partake in this fight for justice. If you want to lose weight to make your own life easier, that's a completely valid choice and has nothing to do with diet culture. You don't need to stay fat in order to fit in and receive cool points from these delusional people. What is this? Our Prussian Olympics? You heard it here first, folks. If you decide to have a salad instead of a pizza, you, my friend, have an ED. Judging by the constant virtue signaling, this creator is using the fat liberation movement to make money and is capitalizing off people's insecurities. Plain and simple. I think her head might have been in the right place when she first started, when she might have actually been anti-diet and not anti-weight loss. But then she realized she can grow her account way faster by lying to people and telling them what they want to hear, not what they need to hear.
We are entering week 4 of eating fast food for every meal. I'm feeling sick.
Anyway, that's it for me.